Hello, hope everybody's doing well. My name is Dan Lahane, and I'm the one that's going to be going through our corporate overview with you today. The first thing that I'd like to do to begin our presentation is just to explain this very first slide to you. What you'll notice on this slide is obviously it says opportunity to make tomorrow better. And then you see two different company logos, Charge Financial Group and then Globe Life's Family Heritage Division. So I'm going to start with Globe Life's Family Heritage Division. And from this point forward, I'm going to refer to them as Family Heritage. But what Family Heritage does is it's actually a supplemental health insurance company. And so what that means is they actually pay money directly to somebody if they have to go through something catastrophic, something like cancer, heart attack, stroke, or a bad accident. Right, so most people have regular major medical health insurance that's really designed to pay for medical expenses. They pay the doctor, the hospital, and all the medical charges. But the problem is that when something catastrophic happens, something like cancer or a heart attack or one of the others, there could be a lot of other expenses that are involved in that. So there's things like deductibles, there's co-payments, out-of-pocket expenses like travel expenses and things. And another big one could be lost income. So now Family Heritage does absolutely everything for Charge Financial Group. And what I mean by that is Family Heritage takes care of all the customer service, all of the accounting, like accounts receivables, accounts payables, all the marketing. Family Heritage really does all of those business operations, but there's one thing that Family Heritage doesn't do, and that's they don't have any salespeople that actually work directly for the company. And so what they do is they rely on companies like Charge Financial Group to do the selling for them. And Charge Financial Group is one of about 40 companies that actually represents Family Heritage. Now, we feel very fortunate to have the area that we had the opportunity to service. We're in Houston, in the whole Houston metropolitan area, and the same as in Dallas, the Dallas-Fort Worth area. So, but there's other companies just like Charge Financial Group all over the United States. For example, there's an office in Nashville, Tennessee, Chicago, Illinois, Minneapolis, Minnesota, San Antonio, and Austin, Texas. So before I go much further into the presentation, I'd really like to take a chance to really introduce myself to you. Again, my name is Dan Lahane, and I've actually been with the company for 8.5 years. So 8.5 years ago, I was in your shoes or in your chair. When I was going through and looking for my next career opportunity, there were several things that were really important to me, but primarily there were two major things that were important to me. First of all, I wanted to find a company that had process behind it. In other words, I wanted to be able to learn a process and be able to repeat it. I had never been in the insurance industry before. In fact, prior to coming here, I had no other experience except for one industry. And so it was important to me to find a company that could teach me how to do it and then have process behind it that I could follow. Well, that's one thing that I found here. The other thing that was really important to me is that I wanted to find a company that I could grow with, right? I didn't want to have to wait for somebody to get promoted or for them to retire or something else before I had my next opportunity. So a little bit more about me personally. I graduated from Texas Tech University in Lubbock, Texas, a long time ago. I actually studied business. I had a business marketing degree. And when I was in school, upon graduation, I knew I wanted to be in business. I knew I wanted to be in business operations and sales and marketing. So I took a job right out of college in Houston. And in the industry I was in was litigation support. So basically what we did was we helped law firms get ready for trial. So we did things like photocopying and scanning and stuff like that. Not really that important, but I was with that company in Houston for about a year when they promoted me to move out to Los Angeles. And so I ran the office in Los Angeles for about 3.5 years, and then moved back to Houston, and then was here back in Houston for a couple of months, and then decided to start my own company. When I started my own company, I had a non-compete in Houston and I had a non-compete in Los Angeles. So I had a business partner, but we started our first office in Dallas, Texas. And 2 years later, when the non-competes expired, we expanded into Houston and then into Chicago and then into New York. And the company just kept growing. But after about 15 and a half years, my business partner and I decided to sell the company. And that's when I found myself looking for a new career. So I'm married. I've been married to the same woman for 28 years. And we have 4 children. I have 3 daughters, and that's why I don't have any hair. But I have 3 daughters. One of them's 22, the other one's 19, and then a 17-year-old. And then we have one son that's 13. He's in 7th grade. So I have a lot to work for. But anyway, moving to this next, get it to advance. There we go. Our vision at Charge Financial Group is to be the #1 company representing family heritage. Now, we're one of the youngest companies representing family heritage, and right now we're not #1. We're around 12 or 11, but we've grown every single year, and we will continue to grow until we hit that #1 spot. Now, in order to do that is the reason why we're talking to you today. In order to, we've been very successful, but in order for us to continue to grow and reach #1, we need to hire leadership. So that's why that's why we're talking to you. And I'll get more into the positions a little bit later in the presentation. But we currently have an office in Houston, Dallas. We also have an office in Pearland, and then we have remote offices in Beaumont and Corpus Christi, Texas areas. We want to continue to grow those offices, but also expand in some other markets like the Oklahoma and Louisiana markets. A little bit more about Family Heritage. The company was actually founded in 1989 by a gentleman named Howard Lewis. Howard actually owned the company from 1989 through about November of 2012. And in 2012, he sold the company to a really big traditional insurance company called Globe Life. Globe Life is actually a public company, and it's traded on the New York Stock Exchange. And you can find their symbol on whichever money vehicle you use to search stocks under the symbol GL. Back to Family Heritage, they have $1.3 billion in assets. Now, there's a couple different ways that every insurance company is graded. But one way, in a very neutral way, is through a third-party company called AM Best. And that's all AM Best does, is grade insurance companies, right? So you can find them at ambest.com. But basically what they're looking for when they're assigning grades are really just 2 things. Number one is they're taking a look at the financial strength. They want to make sure that the insurance company can pay all of its claims, right? So if you had a car accident or your house burned down, you would want to make sure that insurance company had enough money to pay you to rebuild it or to buy a new car. So that's one thing that they're looking at. The only other thing that they're measuring is the number of complaints that are filed against that company. Now, I'm not talking about the type of complaints that one might get if you parked in the wrong parking space at an office building when you were visiting a business. So if you parked in the wrong spot, let's say you parked in the president's spot and the president's secretary called to complain, AM Best doesn't measure those types of complaints. The complaints that they're looking for are the ones that the judges hand out, where a judge actually says, hey, insurance company, we demand you that you pay this claimant. And in over 30 years, Family Heritage has had 0 complaints. So the 0 complaints, along with the financial strength, has given us the highest grade that you can get, which is the A+ Superior, rated by AM Best, which is very prestigious. Now, the Better Business Bureau also rates companies, and they give us an A+ rating. Since I've been with the company, Family Heritage has won the Stevie Award for customer service. So they won it again in 2019, but 18, 17, 16, and all the way as far as I know. I think the biggest reason why Family Heritage keeps winning this customer service award is because we still answer our phones live. Yep, it's answered by a live person, and it's locally here in the United States. So that's a little bit about Family Heritage. I'll talk a little bit now about Globe Life, our parent company. Globe Life has grown its financial strength and reputation for decades. Currently, they have over $3.6 billion of health premium in force, over $192 billion of life insurance coverage in force. The Globe Life companies have more policyholders than any other life insurance company in the country, and the Globe Life companies have more ordinary life insurance policies every year than any other company in the United States. You may have already heard of Globe Life. They have several national brands. One is Globe Life Field in Arlington, Texas. That's where the Texas Rangers play. They're close to Dallas. That's impressive, right? But what's even more impressive to me is that they have a 30-year commitment with the Texas Rangers. And of course, the Dallas Cowboys. Whether you love the Dallas Cowboys or don't love the Dallas Cowboys, you have to appreciate the fact that it is a well-known brand. In fact, I've heard that the Dallas Cowboys are the most valuable franchise in the world. So, and what's really interesting about our relationship with the Cowboys is they only have 11 national sponsors and only one insurance company, and that's Globe Life. Now, the next one over to the right is the Football Club of Dallas. I'll be transparent with you. I don't really know a whole lot about the football club in Dallas. I know they're in Dallas. I think it's in the Frisco area. But Globe Life actually runs their Special Olympics. See, Globe Life's mission is to make tomorrow better. Our mission at Family Heritage is we help families make tomorrow better by working to protect their financial future. So I'm going to show you a little bit about that. We specialize in, and again, I'll re-say it, but we are a supplemental health insurance company that specializes in really four main policies. We have a cancer policy, a heart attack and stroke policy, accident, and an intensive care. But our lead product, the one that we introduce ourselves with, is the cancer product, the cancer policy. But why do you think we lead with the cancer one versus the accident? Well, for two reasons mainly. First off, cancer affects a lot of people. In fact, if you asked 100 random strangers who the closest person to them is that's had to go through cancer, 90 of them will be able to share a story with you. 90% will be able to. It's either going to be someone like a family member of theirs, or it'll be a friend from either school, church, or work. So it affects a lot of people. The second reason is it turns out that it's the most expensive disease in the United States. Now, I think the reason why it's because all of these diseases are very expensive, but I think the reason it's the most expensive is because it can last so long. It's not unusual to have treatments for cancer for months, sometimes even years. Sometimes even when you beat it, it comes back. So that's the biggest two reasons why we lead with the cancer policy. Now, each one of them works exactly the same way, but I'm going to focus on the cancer one with you today as well, but they all work exactly the same way. I'm going to go through it with you, and I'm not going to go through the whole presentation, just parts of it. And number one, don't worry, I'm not trying to sell you a policy. It may look like I'm trying to sell you a policy just because I want to show it to you like I would be showing a business owner or their employees, but I'm not going to let you buy one from me today, so don't worry. But after I am done going over the presentation with you, I'm going to ask you just two simple questions. Number one is, do you believe in the product? That's probably the most important question. Number two is, if you showed this to 30 total strangers, how many would say yes? And so our goal is to do 30 presentations per week. Now, you might think that that's a little bit odd because you might be able to present to 30 people at one time in a mid-sized company, right? Well, because of HIPAA laws, we're not allowed to discuss medical related questions in public. It has to be done one-on-one. So we could do the presentation as a group, sort of like I'm doing now, but when we get to the policy, we have to meet with them individually. So out of 30 individual presentations, how many would say yes? And there's no right or wrong answer there. So here's the presentation. The American Cancer Society says that cancer will occur in 3 out of every 4 families. Now, obviously, we hope we're that 4th family and that cancer doesn't hit our family, but cancer plays no favorites. In fact, the experts say that 1 out of every 2 men will get cancer. With men, it's prostate cancer that is the most common and is followed by lung, colon, and bladder. For women, 1 in 3 women will be diagnosed with cancer in their lifetime, with breast cancer being the most common, followed by lung, colon, and uterine. And then for children, it's the second leading cause of death behind accidents, with leukemia being the number 1, but followed by brain tumors. This year, they're estimating that there's going to be 1.6 or over 1.6 million new cancer cases in the United States. Now, that 1.6 million is a very easy number to say, right? 1.6 million. But if you think about that, that's the population of Dallas in the city limits. For the first time, we'll hear that they have cancer. Now, some of these cancers like breast cancer, prostate, and ovarian, those can be hereditary. But what the experts tell us is that over 75%, or right at 75% of all the cancers they're finding are not hereditary. They actually come from the environment, from what we breathe, what we eat, drink, where we work and live. Now, even though all this is going on, the good news is that more than 6 out of 10 people that are diagnosed with cancer will survive. So of that 1.6 million, over 60% of them are going to survive. The bad news, though, is it's really expensive. The overall yearly cost for cancer in the United States exceeds $226 billion. And that's just fighting cancer. That's not any research money. That's fighting cancer. So the way that $226 billion is broken out is in 2 different types of costs. So we've talked about this a little bit already, but you have your direct cost, and that's like the $103 billion, and that's like the doctors, hospitals, and medical charges. So this is what our major medical health insurance is paying. The problem, though, is that the larger expense, the indirect expense, is not covered by our health insurance, and that's $123 billion. And again, we've already talked about this, but it could be lost income, deductibles, travel, co-payments, undercover charges, child care, just could go on and on and on. And if your health insurance company is not going to pay for that, then who's going to pay for it? It's going to come right out of our pockets. So I'd like to just talk to you guys about just a hypothetical scenario. And in this hypothetical scenario, I'm going to build a family. So with this family, we'll say there's a husband and a wife, or a mom and a dad. Let's say they have 2 children. And let's assume that both of them work. Not the children, but both mom and dad work. That after all of the taxes are taken out, all the deductions that they have, whether it's retirement plans or all the deductions, that they come home with $6,000 each month of disposable income. Okay? What are they spending that $6,000 on every month? What's usually their biggest expense? Their house. And then since they both have jobs, they probably both have cars, right? And probably 2 car notes. And then, of course, you have the car insurance or the auto insurance, utilities, clothes, haircuts, food, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera, right? But what we find is that if they're making $6,000 disposable income, that they're spending right at about $5,800. So they've got like $200 left over each month. What do you think they're doing with that $200? Hopefully saving it, right? What we find is that they're not. What they're spending it on is that new pair of cleats that their son needs for the new football season, or ballet lessons, or a tutor, or piano lessons, or soccer, or whatever. It just always seems to be something. I don't think in the last 3 or 4 years I've ever bought my son a new pair of shoes because he's worn them out, just outgrows them. But everything's fine, right? This family is actually living the dream. They've got children that they get to go watch do their activities. They barbecue on the weekends with their friends in the backyard, and everything's going fine. And then one day, because they're really just responsible people, they go to the doctor for their routine checkups. And I can pick on the mom or the dad here, but for this scenario, I'm going to pick on the mom because she's probably the most responsible one out of the bunch. So she ends up going to the doctor, and lo and behold, they find out that she's going to be one of the 1.6 million this year. It sucks, right? Everybody that I've ever talked to knows that there's a chance that cancer could happen to them, but no one thinks it's going to happen today. It turns out it's going to be okay. She's found the very best doctor for this type of cancer and when they caught it. So they caught it early, and this doctor has like a 98% cure rate for when they caught it in the type. The protocol, however, is that they're going to do chemotherapy Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday. Okay, she's going to get Friday, Saturday, and Sunday off, but then they're going to repeat that for 12 weeks. Then they're going to hit it with radiation for a couple of weeks, and then maybe a small surgery to kind of get the cells that were around the tumor. But then she's going to be all better. She'll be cured. But my question is that if she's going through chemotherapy 4 days a week for 12 weeks straight, what do you think is going on with her income? It's going down, right? What's most likely going on with his income? It's probably not going up, right? It's probably going down also because now he's maybe working a little bit less so he can take her to the doctor or be there for her or do the other things that she's been doing around the house, right? So their income is most likely going down. What do you think is going on with their expenses? Parking. Have you ever parked in the medical center? It's like $15, $20 every day, right? And then your deductibles and co-payments and maybe childcare, and the list just keeps going on and on and on and on. So if their income was at $6,000 and their expenses were at $5,800, and now the income is going down and the expenses are going up, what do? They only had a $200 buffer, so what do? How do they pay for it? What we find is the first thing that they turn to is bank debt, credit cards, right? When that's maxed out and they won't give you any more debt, any more credit, is when they jump into the retirement funds or like college funds. When that's gone is when we see them having to refinance homes or sell homes, cars, and just start selling assets. The thing that probably makes me most sick to my stomach out of all these stats is this one. Over 50% of all bankruptcies in the United States are caused because of a medical bill. It's crazy. Over 50% of people that file for bankruptcy do so because of a medical issue. So that's what Family Heritage does. Family Heritage pays money directly to that family so that when their income starts to go down, it doesn't go down. It actually goes up to keep up with these expenses. The cancer policy will pay in excess of $35,000 per month. Okay, so pretty cool, right? But what separates Family Heritage, and I could go through all of the benefits with you, but I'll do that at some other point. But what really separates Family Heritage from everybody else in the market is this next benefit, and that's called return of premium. The return of premium benefit. Basically, the way this works is it makes sense to own this even if you never use it, because we return your premium after 25 years or at age 65. Now, every state's a little bit different, but in Texas, it's you get all of the money back after 25 years or when you turn 65, whichever comes first. So, for example, if I were 30 when I signed up for I was 30 when I signed up for the plan, I would get all my money back when I turned 55. But if I was 55 when I signed up for it, I get it all back in 10 years, right? Because it's whatever comes first. So we have three different scenarios here. Scenario number one is that there's no claims. And I'll let you know, this is kind of what everybody's hoping for, right? No one buys this hoping they get to use it. So, but in this scenario, let's just say they put in $20,000, never had to use it. They get all $20,000 back. Now, if they needed it maybe on something small, that's okay. Use it. Maybe they had some skin cancer or maybe a thyroid issue they caught early, and Family Heritage only gave them $5,000. Well, then they get the $15,000 back. But if you really need it, like this large claim, and in this scenario, they paid in $20,000, and then Family Heritage paid them $65,000. Well, in this case, they're not getting any money back, but they don't have to pay any extra either, right? It's just regular insurance at that time. And a couple of the commitments that Family Heritage makes to their policy owners is, number one, their rate will never increase. In fact, in over 30 years, Family Heritage has never raised a rate on a current policy owner. So that's number one. Number two is they'll never cancel on them for any reason, right? So they could get older, they could have claims or more claims, and Family Heritage will never cancel the policy on them. So. Okay, so those two questions, you remember what they are? Number one, do you believe in the product? Can you see how it would really be helpful? And we just talked about cancer, but the same thing goes for heart attacks, strokes, accidents, stuff like that. And number two is, if you showed this to 30 total strangers, oh, and by the way, this isn't a multi-level marketing deal where you're just calling on friends and family, right? We call on strangers. We sell to strangers. Our friends and family are more than welcome to buy it from us, but our model, our marketing strategy is to call on strangers. So if you showed this to 30 total strangers, what I showed you, how many do you think would say yes? Depends on how much it is, right? Just about everybody I've ever shown this to says, man, this sounds amazing, Dan, but it also sounds really expensive. And I think the biggest reason why most people think it's going to be very expensive is because health insurance is so darn expensive now. That family that we built, they're probably spending between $1,000 and $1,500 per month on their health insurance or more. And so since, like I said, this pays in excess of $35,000 a month, it has no network, no deductibles, and no copayments, most people guess that this is going to be at least $1,000 per month for the family. But it's not. Actually, our average policy is only $84 per month. That's not bad, is it? Now, one thing that you'll learn about me as we get to know each other is I hate averages, right? I hate using averages because it's not exactly, it could be different, right? An average, it could be different. It could be higher or lower. So I'll just give you actual numbers for a big, broad range. So if I were, say I was 30 years old and single, right? Now there's 4 different levels, but if I got the very best policy, then my premium at 30 and single would only be $66.50 per month. Now, I'm not 30 and single. I'm 53 and married with 4 children, right? So for us, on the very best policy, we'd be paying about $250 per month. Still really not that bad, right? And it doesn't really matter as long as it's not taking food off the table, because I'm getting it all back anyway, because I'm not getting any cancer. Just knocked on wood. So, but the average policy per customer is $84 per month. So how many out of 30 do you think would get it? I'll tell you that the average salesperson, their first year, will sell 5 policies in a week. I wish I could tell you that the average salesperson showed it to 30 people a week, but Maslow figured this out a long time ago. But we do know that the average person does have 5 customers per week. So there's only 2 reasons people say no, right? Only 2 reasons that people say no. One is because they just can't afford it, right? Even though we have plans that are as low as $20 per month, and even though people probably spend more on things that cause cancer than our products, when I hear that objection, I just give them my business card and I give them the brochure, right? My goal in every presentation is to try to leave them in a better mood than they were in before I got there. I mean, I could scare them and say, hey, if you think it's bad now, 6 months from now, if cancer hits it, think about how bad it's going to be. But I wouldn't enjoy that, right? And so I just give my business card and the brochure. And I'm hopeful that when maybe they get their hours back in work or pay off whatever they expense they just had, that they'll be able to afford it, and they'll call me then. The only other reason that people say no is because they just don't trust me. Now, I learned a long time ago, if someone doesn't trust me, the harder I get them to try to trust me, or the harder I try to get them to trust me, the further away they go from trusting me. So I handle it the exact same way. I give them my business card and I give them the marketing material. But Family Heritage has done an amazing job of putting the brochure together, and they've included all of our accolades. On the last page of the brochure, it has the AM Best rating. It has the Better Business Bureau rating. It has our Stevie Awards. It also has testimonials and links that they can go to. So, but on average, 5 customers per week. So I'm going to spend about 30 minutes with you in our one-on-one interview talking to you about our compensation package. I just put this up there just to kind of give you an idea of what the average people, below average people, and above average people make their first year in our industry. So if you were average and had 5 customers per week, then your earnings, your actual earnings is $67,992. Your cash flow, because of deductions, is $58,718. Again, I'm going to go into detail on how that works. But when I showed this to my wife 8.5 years ago, she looked at it and said, "That's great, Dan, but what are you planning on doing in the evening times?" Because that would have not been enough. So I had to be above average, and I was. I was able to average 10 customers per week. Now, really the only difference is that I made sure that I showed it to 30 people every week. But if you're at 8, then your cash flow is almost $104,000 per year. Again, I'm going to go into great detail on how we get paid in our one-on-one interview. The next question that I get is, okay, so how do you find your customers? Well, I'm going to spend a lot of time in our second interview going about that, also going over our marketing strategy as well. But I'll just tell you, I've already mentioned, it's not family and friends. We work with business owners. We work with business owners, employees, farmers, municipalities, school systems, and etc. And again, I will actually go over that with you either during our one-on-one interview or right prior to it. Warren Buffett says, if you don't find a way to make money while you sleep, that you'll work until you die. One of the top reasons, and the number one reason why I picked this as my career, is because of what's called residual income. So we not only get paid the first year on the first year premium, but we get paid every single year that the customer keeps the policy. So this first year, obviously, if we're average, we're probably making about $75,000 or $78,000 per year with the bonuses and everything. But if we don't get any better at the job the next year, right? Don't work any harder, don't work any smarter, just don't get better at all, then we're going to make that same amount, but we get a raise because of all of these customers now that are now on the book for the second year, because we get paid every year they have it. I took it to 5 years. And the biggest, because I could have gone out 100 feet, right? But I took it to 5 years because at 5 years, something special happens. At 5 years, you become fully vested in those renewals. What that means is that when you're with the company, you get 100% of the renewals. You get paid every single month on every one of your customers. But if you leave the company and you've been here 5 years, the way the money works is it's felt like you haven't left, right? So since I've been here over 5 years, I'm fully vested. If I decided to leave today, I would get paid every single month on all the customers that we have on the books. Now, if I were to pass away, then all of that money would go to my wife every single month. If she passes away, then it'll go to the kids, and it stays in the estate until every one of your customers is no longer with the with Family Heritage. So it's a tremendous retirement vehicle. You may have noticed on that sheet that showed the compensation that we only work 48 weeks a year. So we actually take a month off every year for travel. Now, 2 of those trips are paid for by Family Heritage, and the other 2 are paid for by Charge Financial Group. On these trips, they're awesome, but you get to bring your family as well. So everybody's invited. So the past trips, we've been to Seattle, Orlando, Denver, Chicago, San Diego, the Bahamas, and many others. But we've also, this year, we're going to Minneapolis, Minnesota, and Cabo San Lucas. I could talk to you until one of us turned blue in the face about how awesome these trips are, but I'll just sum it up by saying this. Family Heritage makes us feel like $1 million when we're there. First-class places with first-class events. So, and my family really enjoys going as well. Now, Charge Financial Group takes 2 additional trips each year, and this year we're going to St. Martin in the Caribbean Sea and Mallorca, Spain. Since I've been with the company, my wife and I have been to London, England, Lisbon, Portugal, Dominican Republic. We've been to Victoria, British Columbia. We've been to Italy. I went to Florence and Rome. We also went to Panama and several other places. I'm leaving some off. We could go anywhere in the world, but what makes these trips so amazing is who we go with. I have just a few pictures up here that my assistant put together for me, but I could actually literally show you 30 slides of pictures. But here's just a few. This is us entering a baseball game in Seattle. We went to go see the Mariners play at Safeco Field. This picture next to that is my wife and I in Rome. That's a picture inside the Colosseum. And then this bottom picture over here is Jenna. Jenna is actually one of our field directors in the Pearland office, and then her husband came with her on the trip. They left their young children at home. And then that's me. And then here's a picture of us at dinner, one of our dinners in Jamaica. And then we have, this is a funny picture. When we went to Panama, our goal was to take a picture with the entire group in front of the Panama sign. We never could pull that off. So a few of us, as we were leaving in the airport, saw this Panama sign, so we took a real quick picture. Again, we could go wherever we wanted, but what makes it so much fun is just the people that we're with. Now, I've talked to you guys a lot about the sales position, sort of, the products and how salespeople get paid and all that, and that's really not even what we're looking for. Of course, every company needs great salespeople, right? But what we really need help in, and I alluded to this at the very beginning, is that in order for us to reach that #1 spot, we need market directors and regional directors. So, but I don't know if you've ever worked for anybody before that had never done your job before. So I have, and the guy was a great manager, but he just really didn't understand what the customer wanted. And so that's the reason we believe so strongly in that. Even though you're hired up here, everybody has to go through this phase, right? This sales professional role. And so typically for someone that wants to come in and grow with us, typically that's 1 to 3 months, closer to 1 really, and then you move up to field director. And then I'm going to spend a lot of time going through what you have to do in order to earn these promotions, but it actually took me 2.5 years to get to agency owner. The record is 2 years, the average is 5 years for the person that really wants to grow. Some people don't. They would much rather just hang out here. In fact, some people don't even want to have to deal with managing people, and they just really enjoy the career sales path. Either way, I'll spend a lot of time explaining to you that in our second interview. So it'd be great if we could just hire everybody, right? If we hired everybody, then we wouldn't be able to train anybody. And so what we look for when we're narrowing down our candidates is we're looking for 3 main things. #1 is someone that has a competitive spirit, someone that's self-driven, and someone that has a desire to have a career, not just a job. Now, this is a process that we're going through, and this is day one of the process, right? But this is a process. During this process, I'm going to be very transparent with you. I'm going to talk to you about the good, the bad, and the ugly. I'm hopeful that you'll do the same with us when we're going through your resume. And at the end of the process, we'll be able to make a decision. We'll decide whether or not we just want to be fishing buddies or that we want to work together. So, but once we make our selection and they select us, then there's requirements. You actually have to have an insurance license to sell insurance. And so it's no big deal. We do everything with you. We, meaning Charge Financial Group, really handle a lot of the stuff with you or for you, right? There's really only a couple things that we can't do for you, and that's one is we can't get your fingerprints taken for you, and two is we can't pass the exam for you. But we do have all the study material that we give to you free of charge. We pay for it, but we give it to you for free. Then once you pass the exam is when we send you to our training. The training is called Sales Academy, and the Sales Academy is basically you're covering two things during Sales Academy. Number one is product knowledge. What does it cover? Who does it cover? And who doesn't it cover? Most importantly, probably who doesn't it cover? So that's the first thing. The second thing is process knowledge. Who do I show this to? How do I find them? And what do I say to them? Oh, and by the way, what are they going to say back to me? When you graduate from the Sales Academy, you have 100% confidence in the products and the process. Then your field training begins. So the next week is when your field training begins, and actually you're assigned a personal trainer, and basically your personal trainer is there for you for as long as you need them, but usually it's 1 to 2 weeks of field training. And it starts off where you're really just observing, but we're not building rockets, right? This isn't really that difficult. So it goes from observation to full participation. But I can't tell you the confidence that it gives you when you can watch and hear somebody else saying the words that you've just memorized and watch it work. It gives you a lot of confidence. But we've been recognized nationally as having the best sales training in America. Now there's continuing training or continued education as well. There's leadership academies. Each one of those steps on the career track has its own training. There's online interactive training that's available 24/7 on every single module of the business. There's team meetings, there's weekly coaching meetings, there's national webinars, and then of course the national meetings that I was talking about earlier. Well, guys, thank you so much for letting me go through the corporate overview with you. Our next step is to evaluate all of your resumes, and then if we feel like you're a good fit for what we're looking for, then what we're going to do is we'll contact you sometime either this week or next week to get on your calendar to have the one-on-one interview with you. But have a great day, and thanks again for coming to our corporate overview.